Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Israel. How y'all doing tonight? How's everybody doing? Hallelujah. I pray you had a restful Shabbat today. Got some rest, enjoyed the Word. Let me see if I can get range here. All right, how am I coming in? How's the audio? All right, audio looks good. Well, blessings, y'all. Again, I hope you had a restful Shabbat today. I know we did, and of course got to really chew on that word again today. Man, the tongue. Well, I'll tell you what, if there's one thing that's been the downfall of men through thousands of years has been that tongue, is that speech. No wonder y'all had to divide it in the beginning. It caused trouble right from the very get-go. Brother Burns says, can you turn it up a little bit? I believe so. All right, it's up a little bit. Let me know if it's too hot. All right, hallelujah. Everybody can hear it anyway. That's good. Anyway, yeah, I'm still here. I was thinking about something. I'll be right back. Yeah, tonight, as you see by the header that Brother Shane typed in when he gets set up the blog talk, we're going to talk a little bit about, in fact, a lot about Holy Convocations, centered around the feast days of the Most High, and the areas like servile work, what's it imply, what's it means, because quite surprisingly, or not surprisingly, the topic comes up a lot. Do we take work off? What is considered work? To what extent do we need to take it off? How does it play out in the feast days? And so I set about to, I figured it would just maybe be one blog talk, but after the research, and I'm still not done, I'm close to 40 pages, so of course I'm going to have to break it. Oh, here we go. Boy, man, the saints, boy, they find out right away. My goodness. Well, y'all can see by what Brother Burns got up there that that is true. They just had, Brother Delano and Sister Tamika just had a little baby boy, healthy baby boy at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Man, word travels. Y'all are informed. I am, what in the world? Hallelujah. But, yeah, that is right, and they're doing well, and they're encouraged, and, of course, they're thrilled because we have another Israelite added to the nation of Israel. All right, glory to the King. All right, as I was saying, that, in fact, for Passover, I was surprised at the amount of calls that I received just myself. I don't know about the other elders or pastor did, but myself received a lot of calls about, what do we do? Do we take this day off, or do we work through it, or, and it seems to come up quite often, so I really set aside some time, and I've been trying to at least do some due diligence into getting down to the bottom of it, so we can kind of, start getting the same thought about it. But this is part one of Holy Convocations and servile work, amongst other things. It's going to go into what is rest, what is considered Sabbath days, what happens on the days of the Holy Convocation. Again, I tried to detail it as much as I possibly could, but again, this is part one. And you know me, if y'all, if it's something that you do, you may want to get a pen and piece of paper, because I like to put a lot of information out there. I really do. Let the Word do the talking. Let the Scriptures kind of spell it out line upon line, precept upon precept. So I do present a lot of information, at least I try to, so people can make the best evaluation and judgment coming from, of course, the biblical perspective. But with that said, we're going to start in, and good to see y'all in the room tonight, everybody that's in the room. And it feels like I'm appreciate Brother Shane and Elder Spinney sitting in for me last Shabbat, because I wasn't feeling well, because we kind of had the crud kind of going through the camp a little bit. It wasn't too bad, but it's that's just what happens once in a while. Well, hallelujah. Back again tonight. All right. Again, Brother Ugly, as always, thank you, sir, for posting up the information, the scriptures, the verses, and the definitions. I'm sure the saints are very pleased, and it's very helpful. Well, thank you, Brother Steve. I appreciate that. Hallelujah. It's good to see you all in the room. All right, starting in the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 12, verse 16 and 17. This is out of the Scriptures version. This is how it is written in the Scriptures version. And on the first day is a set-apart gathering, and on the seventh day you have a set-apart gathering. No work at all is done on them, only that which is eaten by every being, that alone is prepared by you. Verse 17, and you shall guard the festival of unleavened bread, for on the same day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mitzrayim, and you shall guard this day throughout your generations, an everlasting law, or law that is forever. And out of the King James Version, same two verses, verse 16 and 17. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that every man must eat that only may be done of you. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in the selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. So here we have two different versions of the same two scriptures in Exodus 12 and verse 16 and 17. And both of them agree that no work at all is done in them. And this is the first instance that we see this command actually put out there. It's the first time that a feast is mentioned officially in the Torah. And this, of course, is when we were coming out of Egypt, the people coming out of Egypt. This was also the first insight to give us what is to be expected on days which are designated as the holy convocations, or as it said in the scriptures, the set-apart gatherings. The original wording, as it has been translated to us so many thousands of years removed from the first Passover, is that Israel was commanded, there be no manner of work at all except. This was the exception, so there was nothing to be done, no work at all except. So there was an exception for the allowance of food preparation. Notice by the wording that there was not distinction at this time. It appears it was across the board, as I just said, reading from my notes, that it was the period, no manner of work at all, nothing. That's what it says. That pretty much lays it down there, except for food preparation, which I'm going to show you something very interesting about that here in a little bit. All right, the word manner. We got to break these down to get a better understanding. The word manner, as it's used in these two verses, or verse 16 in particular, is the Hebrew 3605. It's pronounced kol. And it's from the Hebrew 3634. Properly, the whole, hence all, any, or every. Meaning completely, the whole thing. No exception. No work, any work, nothing at all. So that this here, by the definition, the word manner, and we find the word any used in the scriptures later on in the Torah in the place of manner. So they're interchangeable. All right, that was the Strong's definition, the Brown Driver Briggs, and I've thrown them both in here because surprisingly they do present a different type of perspective on the same definition, the same word. All right, Brown Driver of the same, Hebrew 3605. The word manner is all, the whole, the whole of, any, each, every, anything, totality, everything. So there's no margin of error there. There's no room for speculation. It's all, it's everything, except for the food. And of course, this is the first time this command was ever given to Israel. All right, it was from 3634, which is the Hebrew kalal, and it means to make perfect. I thought that was interesting. All right, and so it says no manner of work. So we have what manner means: nothing, nil, none. Don't do anything. And the word work, as it's broke down, and the definition, the meaning behind the word work, is 4399. That's the Hebrew 4399 in the Strong's first, and that's melaka, if I pronounce it right. And Strong says it's the same as Hebrew 4397, properly dutyship, which means an appointed representative. So somebody that's in the role of dutyship is actually appointed to represent or be kind of in a supervisory role. And that says that is ministry, generally employment. This is interesting. It says never servile. In Strong's definition, when it says employment in parentheses, it says never servile, which is very interesting, and you will learn something about why they have this here. Or work abstractly or concretely. Also, property as a result of labor, business plus cattle, and the rest of the definition there. But what the interesting part is generally employment, never servile, or work abstractly or concretely. Okay, the Brown Driver Briggs definition of the word work, 4399. Occupation, work, business. And we're going to define business a little clearer. This is all concentrating on no manner, none, zero, zip, zilch of work. Okay? No dutyship, no employment, especially never meaning servile, no business, no occupational work. Continuing the Brown Driver Briggs definition, occupation, business, of course, property, work, something done or made, workmanship, service, use, public, business, political, religious. And I broke it down. This one I really went way behind the Hebrew to see what the original Hebrew meant. And again, for the word work, I went to the Etymological Dictionary of the Hebrew Language by Ernest Klein, which is a great book. So if you haven't got one, try to get your hand on one. Again, that's the Etymological Dictionary of the Hebrew Language by Ernest Klein. And of course, I got Pastor's copy, and man, I don't even like giving it back. I just have to admit that. But he needs it for his study too, so hallelujah, I'll cough it up. But anyway, in there, that Hebrew melakah, it means work, occupation, service, use, goods, and property. Derived from to send, literally meaning mission. So anybody that's sent or on a mission is actually appointed to be doing something as defined in work. And remember, it says no manner of work, meaning nothing, nil, none. So this is kind of what the breakdown is. This is, you got in my notes here. The breakdown is all or any or none, which is work, equals manner. So no work at all is the term for manner. And work constitutes the occupational employment, such as one which tends the flocks. Employment in general and dutyship, or again, as we learned earlier, appointed representative. So what we have in essence is no or any work or occupational or general employment of which one receives a wage or those appointed as representatives or business practices. And using the terminology, it's easy enough to apply it today's work principles, work practices. All right, like I said earlier, I was going to define the word business as the Brown Driver Briggs uses the word business in their definition of work. And it means being busy. This was out of, where did I get this out of? Oh, I got this out of my Oxford Dictionary, 1919 one. I really like it too. It's a PDF one, but it's real handy. It means being busy, task or duty. These are all terms for business, so we can apply them. No manner of task, no manner of duty, no manner of province. Habitual occupation, profession, trade, serious work, things needing attention, agenda. So all these things that we have in front of us for the business day. Dealings with men and matters. All these things were shut down and this first Passover, this first declaration. These things were all included in no manner of work. All these business going-ons. Any difficult matter. Thing that concerns one, that one may meddle with. All this stuff was to be put aside on the day of Holy Convocation because, as we're going to find out later, there was something that, of course, was surrounding these Holy Convocations, these set-apart gatherings, and that's why Yah designated them that way, because he had something in particular that Israel was to do on those days. And maybe most of you know what it is, but we're going to get really into that because it's important into how it plays out in today. All right, and this is what I found out. Oftentimes when I'm looking over these verses and trying to break something down, on the what is the compare on the eSword that I got on my computer. It has a compare bar on there, and it'll take every Bible, different type of Bible that I have in the program, and compare the verse against each other. So it's kind of interesting to go hit that compare button and read how all the different versions have that one particular verse. But what I found out was interesting is in the Septuagint, as most of you know, that it is the Greek rendering, supposedly 300 some years before the Messiah came on the scene, and you'll have to go back to do your own history about where it got its origins. But anyway, the elixir, or the 70 elders or priests that actually translated this from the Hebrew to the Greek, but that's a whole other story. But anyway, this is the way Exodus 12:16 reads. Now remember, well, let me read it first, and then I'll bring you back to the King James and the Scriptures. And the first day shall be called holy, and the seventh day shall be a holy convocation to you. Here it is. You shall do no servile work on them. Okay, so now the wording has changed. Only as many things as will necessarily be done by every soul. This only shall be done by you. So the Septuagint completely removes the aspect of only food, and all of a sudden it throws in this thing that anything that you're supposed to not do anything except only those things which are necessary. So what do? So you take this one particular account and you try to stick to this compared to all the other, let's call them translations, that go back to just saying except in the preparation of food. I don't know. I put it in there because I found it pretty interesting that they actually broaden it to this, this great scope. I mean, personally, here when you're in a farm environment, you have to tend to the animals. They need it. You have to. Here we raise the chickens. They have to get water. They have to get fed every day. Because it's just something that you have to do when you have animals. So it's interesting in context the way it reads. But of course, I'm going to go back and stick to no manner of work at all except for food preparation. All right, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 5. Verse 5 through, let me see, as I kind of get up here, looks like verse 5 through 8. Leviticus 23, verse 5 through 8. And again, this is later on, after they come out of Egypt, Mitzrayim, and Yahweh again gives the ordinance of the or the ordinance of the feast days. In Leviticus 23. So he says, in the 14th day of the first month, at evening is Yahweh's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. In the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. But you shall make an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. In the 7th day is a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work, number 4399 therein. So remember, the first time it was written in the King James and the Scriptures version said no manner of work at all. Well, we come to Leviticus 23 and the translation changes from no manner of work at all to no servile work. So what's the difference? Why the change in wording? Why the change in translation? I don't know what the specific reason was, but after studying it, and then I came to the understanding the reason why it was. So we're going to look behind the words again, which is crucial to understanding everything that surrounds these days of holy convocation during the feast days. So again, we're going from no manner of work at all except for food preparation to no servile work therein. And I'm assuming now you'll never see it ever again mentioned where it says except for food preparation. So, that's the only time it's mentioned is Exodus 12:16. Don't know why, but I guess, that's just, ordinance forever. All right, Brown Driver Briggs' first definition of servile or /service, because it means the same word, servile service, or serve, is the Hebrew 5656. Abodah. And it means labor service, labor work, labor of servant or slave, labor service of captives or subjects, service of Yah. And the word subjects are those that are under government, or they're not independent, they're owing obedience to somebody. They're under a position of being supervised or instructed, or so they're being subject. And in the Strong's, the word servile, again, Hebrew 56:56. The pronunciation again is abodah, and it says work of any kind. It's from the Hebrew 56:47. Act, bondage, bondservant, effect, labor, ministering, office, service, and a few other little words. Use, work, wrought. And again, back to Ernest Klein's book. Servile, service in there means work, labor, deed, action, service, divine service, worship. And I got in parentheses, we can find out something a little bit different, because the word service, if you actually take it in its generic form, the understanding is it applies to everything, no manner of work at all. But there has to be a difference in there if you look at it, because especially you look in Numbers 28 and 29, it breaks it down that there was somebody doing an active work or labor that day, and that was by the Levitical priesthood. And you're going to find out in the study later on that the word service is a different Hebrew number and a different Hebrew meaning when it came to the priesthood. So that removed them from no manner of servile work, or no manner of work, period. All right, from the Hebrew 56:47. A primitive work, to work in any sense. Remember, this is where Hebrew the 56:56 servile comes from. Abad, to work in any sense, by implication, to serve, to till, meaning the ground, enslave, keep in bondage, be bondman, bond service, compel, do, dress, ear, execute, husbandman, keep, labor, bring to pass, cause, do, make, serve, become, servant, service, transgress, work, be wrought, worshiper. So all the implications so far are all those that are basically under the ownership of another, in the position of servant or slave. All right, then again in the Brown Driver's Biggs, 56:47 means to work, serve, to labor, work, do work, to work for another as an employee, serve another by labor, to serve as subjects, to serve with Levitical service. There again, I don't know, that one there is kind of up in the air, as I explained earlier, and hopefully the next broadcast I'll break it down a little bit more. To be worked, be tilled, to make oneself a servant, to be worked, to compel, to labor or work, cause to labor, cause to serve, such as, when I got parentheses, such as meals preparation. Remember the clause in Exodus 12:16. To cause to serve as subjects, to be led or enticed to serve. And finally, from Ernest Klein's book, the Hebrew 56:47, the word serve is servant, slave, bondman, or worshiper. And a good old Oxford Dictionary again, just to see what they had to say, the word servile, and in parentheses, to waiters or servants, of being a slave or slaves. Labor, letter, having no other function than to indicate pronunciation of another, or be at the disposal of another. As of a slave, slavish, cringing, and by the word the word slave comes the word Slav, which was, if you go back and do your history, the Slavic people were southern European people, which were enslaved by the Arabians and sold, 1.25 million of them, if I remember right. And these are white folks sold into slavery in the Barbary Coast, which is the northern coast of Africa. But that's where they get the word slave from, the Slavs. Cringing, mean-spirited, menial, completely dependent. All right, so I went through all that for what reason? Well, it went from no manner of work to no servile work. Well, if you remember the word manner, it said none, zip, zero, none, completely abstaining from all work. except for food preparation. And then we get to Leviticus 23, and all of a sudden the translations starts to insert the word servile. Well, my conclusion, now this is my own conclusion, but by doing the background, looking at the definitions of the study and meditating, is that while they were in Egypt, our people were under the yoke of slavery. They were bound to a master, as subjects, as slaves, as servants. They weren't in the capacity where they were the ones telling other people what to do. So they come out of Mitzrayim, they're in the wilderness, things are going to change. Yah's bringing them to the promised land. When they get into the land that Yah did promise them, that he foretold to Abraham, we're going to find out that, even through the journey, now we become, the Hebrew Israelites, all of a sudden became slave owners. They had their own servants, their own subjects, whether they're their own brethren or those of foreigners or aliens of another nation, either taken by war or captivity. So all of a sudden they had to take the term no manner of work at all to servile work to include those that were servants, and there's a reason for that. And we're going to find out what the reason for that is. All right. The case for the meaning and defining of the word servile according to its use in historical connotation means simply anyone which is under the government or authority of another or under a master. Numbers 28, verse 17 and 18. Again, Leviticus 23 and Numbers 28 and 29 are all really good in talking about the feast days. They break down the feast days. Numbers 28, verse 17. And in the 15th day of this month is the feast. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Be eaten, of course, is talking about the feast of Passover, the unleavened bread. In the first day shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no manner, as we already discussed in Exodus 12:16, which is non-zip zero, anything, which is, remember, the Hebrew 36:05, of servile work, or the Hebrew 56:56, or the work of servants, or subjects, or slaves, in work. Now, there's where the difference comes in. So not only is this including the slaves, the servants, those that are under bondage or indentured to their owners, but it also, when you use the word work, remember, as it broke down in definition, remember in the Strong's in the very beginning of this said it never servile. Well, the reason was because work only applied to those in the position of being the master, being the one telling, being the supervisory role, to the other ones that were actually indentured or owned or under the lash in some cases. So in using Numbers 20:18, it covers everybody. That's why Yah, I believe, actually had Moshe insert the word, that's why he inserted the word servile into the translations. Again, the word servile talks about the servants or the slaves, and work actually implies or is directed at those who are occupied in business. So that covers everybody. All right, that's the employee, the employer. It runs the whole gamut. Okay, so again, you shall do no manner of servile work therein. And again, just for a refresher, 36:05, no manner was the whole, totally, anything, everything. It's all abstaining from. Of servile, age 56:56, labor, service of captive or subjects, labor of servant or slave, and work, age 43:99, occupation, work, business, service, as in freemen, masters, or employers. And when I use the term freeman, we're going to find out a little bit about that too. The Most High made it clear in the writings of the Torah the difference between a man or a woman under the designation of servile workers or those which were under the authority of a master. All right, Leviticus chapter 25, verse 39 through 46. Again, Leviticus 25, 39 through 46. And if thy brother, the context is that they're addressing thy brother. That's the person we're concentrating, focusing on right now. If thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, or fall into hard times, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant. Okay, to serve, age 5647. As a bondservant, age 5656. Back to servile or serve. Again, the word age 5647, to work for another. Serve another by labor, work, labor, or service, as we mentioned the definition earlier. And the word age 5656, now the word age 50, it applies to a bondservant. It also applies to the word servile. Labor, service of captives or subjects, labor or servant of slaves. See how it breaks it down? But here we got in the 39th verse that if thy brother, okay, he's the one, you're not going to compel him to serve in the same capacity as a bondservant one. Right there, Yah is making a distinction between those that are the Israelites and those that are not. So that there's a different way that you treat those in Israel as opposed to those that are from another nation. Verse 40, but as a hired servant and as a sojourner he shall be with thee and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. So why am I bringing this up? Because I'm trying to bring it up to real world time. That's why. Because you have, if you're a business employment and you have somebody that is a brother that is working for you or in the capacity, it's different than somebody from that of another nation. We're going to find that out here. But as a hired servant, this basically applies to those that own businesses. But anyway, but as a hired servant and as a sojourner, he shall be with thee and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. Again, talking about the brother, or the Israelite brother or sister. And then he shall depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, unto the possession of his father shall he return. So, in the year of Jubilee, he gets his freedom again. He gets back all his possession. His servitude is finished, no matter what. When it comes to Jubilees, he's basically done his duty according to law. He gets to go back, and everything he has is returned back to him. And Yah says in verse 42, for they are my servants, which I brought out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. Don't treat them as people of other nations, as slaves of other nations. You treat them as servants of your own house, of your own people. Thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but thou shalt fear Yahweh the Elohim. And the word rigor is 6531. It's from the Hebrew 6531. This is the Strong's. It's parik, from an unused root meaning to break apart, fracture. That is severity, cruelty, rigor. So what Yah is saying here is that you're not going to put the same thing on your brothers you would somebody else that was sold as a bondman from whatever, another nation, taking war, whatever the case may be. You're not going to, but it doesn't. But it also implies, without saying it, that there was kind of an acceptance that you could actually rule over your bondman or your bondservant or your slave that wasn't an Israelite with some type of severity or cruelty. Otherwise, Yah wouldn't have had to break it down and make the distinction. All right, verse 44. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids which thou shalt have shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them you shall buy bondmen and bondmaids. Moreover, the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall you buy, and of their families that are with you, which they shall begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. So you continue in the ownership of those other than Israelites. And you shall take them as inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, you shall not rule one over another with rigor. Again, making the distinction. The Holy Seventh-day Sabbath is a very good example of the whole embodiment of those which had, by the law, had to refrain from working. The Sabbath, by law, was not only designated as a day of holy convocation, but also a feast day of the Most High given to his people, Israel. And you'll find out in the first 4 verses of Leviticus 23, it breaks down the seventh-day Sabbath. And as it is written in the declaration of the law, none were allowed to work on this set-apart gathering day of Yah's feast. This included, which had to be for the father and mother, the son and daughter, for the servants and the slaves, for the strangers, and for the animals as well. So Here we're not going to get into it tonight, but there's a designation and the type of rest. Now, oftentimes when we have days of holy convocations, we use the term loosely. It's a high Sabbath day. Okay? And I'm sure you've all heard it spoken before. All right? And they use the term high Sabbath day, but the Sabbath day entails a day of rest. It's a complete ceasing from your labor. And some of you may have done this, but if you actually break down the different days of holy convocation and what the designation is as being a Sabbath day, you're going to find out that the only true times that the word Shabbat, or complete cessation from all rest, only occurs twice. And that's on the seventh-day Shabbat, and that is on the Day of Atonement. Even the word Shabbaton, I think I used that in my article I did on the Passover, which is on the website. I went back and looked back into it again, and they actually haven't got that correct. So at some point in the future, maybe I need to amend that. But the meaning behind it is slightly, greatly a mistranslation, because they apply it to the Feast of Trumpets and to Tabernacles, which is in error. And you can get that just by reading that out of the Scriptures and getting that from the Scriptures, from the Word. All right, Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 10. Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 through 10. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. All right, you got to keep it holy. You need to remember it. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. And of course, that work is $43.99 if you look behind it again. But the seventh day is the Shabbat, the Sabbath of Yahweh the Elohim, and thou shalt not do any work. The word any is, again, it's the same definition for the word manner of work, $43.99. Thou nor thy son, thou meaning husband, wife, the heads, the rulers, the ones that over the top of the family, the ones in charge, the hierarchy, the authority. Nor thy son, nor thy daughter, again, thy manservant, which is somebody that is sold into slavery, nor thy maidservant, that goes right back to being a servile or a slave or servant or subject, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. This is on the seventh-day Shabbat. And that's like if somebody was to come here on the land and we had a project going on somebody, the heathen that are without. Well, we would tell them that, no, don't, this is our Shabbat day, this is our complete rest day. According to the commandment, everything that abides in our gates is they're at complete rest as the command is. So if you want to come here and work, now you can come in on your Christian Sabbath day and work, but not on the seventh day, Yahweh, the Elohim's feast Sabbath day. Excuse me. Exodus chapter 12, verse 43 through 49. Exodus chapter 12, going back to chapter 12, 43 through 49. I sure hope I'm making sense. Hallelujah. I know it's a lot. Again, this is Oil to Doug. He just puts a ton out there. But that's why, thankfully, through technology, that we can go back and listen again. So, I reserve the right to put out as much as I can in an hour. So, hallelujah. Bless y'all. I'm messing with you. Anyway. And Yahweh said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger. We're going to break this down again. Whose servant, whose stranger. And these 4 verses are wonderful in doing this. No stranger eat thereof, but every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. Why? Well, we're going to find that out. Who's this manservant that is bought for money? Remember, you can actually, back then, a brother could sell himself to the brother. They were sold for money. And so we have a stranger and we have a manservant. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. Period. They shall not eat. And we're going to find out why. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee and will keep the Passover of Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. So there is a condition about the stranger. He shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. Period. You had to be circumcised even to be qualified, all right? Verse 49, one law, one Torah shall be to him that is homeborn or natural Israel, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. All right, breaking down the word stranger is Hebrews 16:16 in the Strong. It's Ge'er, G-A-R-E in the English. It's from the Hebrew 1481. It means properly a guest, by implication a foreigner, alien, sojourner, or stranger. Let me see what time it is. I might take a break. And yeah, I'm gonna take a break quick before I finish this up and let Sister Wenda do some talking for the possible new guests that are in the room, so they can hear all about Straitway Ministries in about 2 minutes. All right, hallelujah. I'll be right back.
Shalom, this is Sister Wenda. I hope that all of you are enjoying this particular broadcast that you're listening to right now. We really appreciate each and every last one of you, our faithful listeners and supporters of the Straitway Truth Radio broadcast. We try to make sure we do our best to ensure that you have the best broadcast as well as the truth coming to you in the hour that we're living in right now. If you'd like to help us in this endeavor, your offering will be greatly appreciated in the work of the ministry of the Most High Yah. Our mailing address for your gift, offering, or letter of support is Pastor Charles Dowell, Jr. That's Pastor Charles Dowell, Jr., 632 Highway 52, Bypass West. That's 632 Highway 52, Bypass West, PMB number 1, Lafayette, Tennessee. And Lafayette is spelled Lafayette, Tennessee, 37083. If you would like to contact us by way of phone, the country code is 1, area code 615-688-3025. You may leave a message there, and be the Father's will, we will do whatever we can to return your message. It is our hope and our prayer that as you continue to listen to the Straitway Truth Ministry, and as you apply the teachings of this ministry, that you are finding peace and growth within you, your family, and life as well. And do please tell others so that the truth may also have an impact and touch others' lives, so that they may enjoy the benefits of the truth of Jesus Christ, just like we all are. Shalom, the King is coming.
Yes, Sister Wenda, the King is coming. Hallelujah. I agree. All right, we were defining the word stranger. We just went through the Strong's definition in the Hebrew 16:6. Now we're going to Brian Driver Briggs' definition, picking right back up where we left off. Brother Ugly. Thumbs up, Brother Ugly. Thumbs up, man. All Jezebels do not call Straitways. Brother Ugly can incite a riot, man. Hey, man. Hallelujah. All right, stranger in the Brown Driver Briggs. Again, the word Gier. Sojourner, a temporary inhabitant, a newcomer lacking inherited rights. Okay, we get a newcomer. That broke it down pretty good, lacking inherited rights of those that belong to the Israelites just by birth. Of foreigners in Israel, though conceded rights. And we're going to find out what that means. And related from the Brown Driver Strong's number H1481. All right, the Strong's definition of foreigner. And that's the Hebrew 8453. We're breaking down stranger first, now foreigner. Page 8453, Tashab. The second form used in Kings number 17:1. From the Hebrew 34:27, a dweller but not outlandish. Hebrew 52:37, especially as distinguished from a native citizen. Active parts, so they're given different variations of the word foreigner. And a temporary inmate or mere lodger, resident alien. There's a key one. Resident alien, foreigner, inhabitant, sojourner, stranger. And then the Brown Driver Briggs. You know, that's what I like about the Brown Driver. They don't, I don't know, they throw out to me a lot of the just, it's like Strong's just threw a lot of stuff in there that wasn't necessary, maybe almost I don't know, it's almost like confusing sometimes, but I don't know. Anyway, back to getting off my mini rant. Brown Driver Briggs definition, foreigner, 8453 Tashab, it is sojourner, stranger. And it's from Hebrews H34:27. Okay. In the previous 5 verses, we have a listing of 4 different classes of people. All right, here's the 4 different classes. We have the homeborn, or the Israelite, the stranger, the foreigner, and the hired servant. Again, we have the homeborn, or the Israelite, the stranger, the foreigner, and the hired servant. Of the 4 classes, it becomes apparent by definition that 2 of the 4 were prohibited from partaking in the Passover, or the first day, the day of Holy Convocation, the foreigner and the hired servant. So back in verse 45, it said, "And a foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof," period. It didn't give them no leeway, no latitude to be circumcised or anything. It just said, no way, you're not going to eat thereof. All right. We can understand the distinction between the foreigner, which is prohibited, and the stranger, which was allowed after he or she met certain requirements. A person labeled as a foreigner was one who would not forsake his nation's laws, customs, practices, whereas a stranger was one, though he or she was of a different nation, rejected the laws, the customs, and the practices of their native land and accepted and embraced the covenants, the laws, the statutes, the ordinances, the customs, and the practices of the nation of Israel. By implication, the hired servant in Exodus 12:45 could not have been a servant which was under the direct ownership by another. Okay, do you understand that? That's key to understand that, because there was actually no exception at all. And we're going to break that down too, that he could partake in one of Yah's holy feast days for his people. By implication, the capacity of this particular servant, talking about the hired servant, verse 45, was one which was not of the covenant and nation of Israel, but one which of another nation and people was under the paid employment of an Israelite. That's the implication. Again, verse 45, a foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. Why? Because they were prohibited. There was no clause for them being circumcised or anything. They were just flat out told, no way. But who was the one hiring this outside servant? And again, it's joined with the word foreigner, or in the same verse, it was hired by the Israelites. It could have been somebody from, so that's like you having a business, and we're going to get to that in a second too. Anyway, the capacity of this particular servant was one which was not of the covenant in the nation of Israel, but one which of another nation of people was under the paid employment of an Israelite. This is easily recognizable by understanding the digression of verse 44 to 45, from a purchased, circumcised slave to a foreigner and hired foreign servant, not actually a slave. What does that mean in the grander scheme of things as it might relate to the business field? I'm trying to take the law, statutes, commands that Yah gave us back then and bring them up into modern day business understanding, if I can. My estimation, this is my own personal estimation, but by the study so far, I think this is the implication behind this, and I think I'm pretty close. My estimation is that because the hired the hired servant by command is not allowed to partake of the Passover / feast of the unleavened bread, which are one and the same. B, this implies that the hired servant then would not be required to observe the commands of the feast. C, this implies that the hired servant would not be allowed to attend the set-apart assembly, at which time the law of Yah to his people was read, and that's the very crucial part of the convocation, which would not be for the foreigner or the hired servant. And D, this implies that the hired servant would then be allowed to continue in his or her duty of servitude for pay, because the ordinance of Yah would not be applicable. Do you all get that? Do we understand that? Okay, I'm going to bring it up. Well, hold on. One may ask, how would the hired servant then be given his wage for the day? Okay, I'll get in that in a second. What I'm trying to say, without one, I don't want to do a great deal of detail here, but basically in a nutshell is that if you have a business, and if it's not a Sabbath day or the Day of Atonement, the hired servant was not allowed, or the foreigner was not allowed to partake in the feast of Yahweh. He was under the owner, he was actually being hired as an employee, being paid a wage every day, and Yah breaks that down too, and we're going to break that down. But the implication and what I see, my estimation, is that he is allowed to continue to work or do the business even on the day of the Holy Convocation, other than the seventh-day Sabbath and the Day of Atonement, which is required for Israel and all the people tied to Israel as a complete rest. Okay, and again, that's going to be for the other parts in this thing. I hope everybody caught up with that. All right. Leviticus chapter, we're going to go to Leviticus chapter 19, verse 13, and the verses 17 and 18. All right, one may ask, how would this hired servant then be given his wage for the day, as is the custom and command of those of Israel on a day which possibly may forbid an Israelite to employ the employer to pay his hired servant? Well, that's actually in the Torah. We're going to look at that, as in ceasing from all business practice. All right, Leviticus chapter 19, verse 13. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor. That's talking about thy neighbor. Neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. The command is that an Israelite is not allowed to keep back the hired man or woman his or her pay for that day. The day's wage was to be paid at the end of the business day. However, how do we define who our neighbor would be? Who is our neighbor? Is it strictly in the capacity of an Israelite to Israelite business arrangement, or is it of a business arrangement between an Israelite and one of another nation? Again, who is an Israelite's neighbor? It is easier understood by determining who is Israel, for if someone is not of Israel, then that someone is not of the kingdom of Yah and does not do the will of the Father. The foreigner, the one that is the stranger that has not accepted the law, statutes, covenants, the commandments, the circumcision of the heart today, and the rebirth of Yeshua, Jesus Christ. All right, verse 17 and 18 in Leviticus 19 again. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor. Who's the context of the thing that we're talking about here? We're talking about thy brother. Thou shalt not hate thy brother. That's the context of this verse. Thou shalt not in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, in parentheses, who is thy brother, and not suffer sin upon him, again, thy brother. Verse 18, thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor, again, who is thy people, thy brethren, as thyself. I am Yahweh. Where in any of these last two verses was it said anything about any other people than your Israelite brethren? The command was case-specific. Thy brethren, those of your spiritual family. Yah did not include those of another nation or the heathen which were around the Israelites. Christianity tells that all men are your neighbor. That's where we get the serious distortion of the word neighbor, because it comes out of Christianity or out of the religion of Egypt, as we found out today from Pastor. They have wrestled the word neighbor to have a different meaning. You know, come on, if we're all considered each other's neighbor, then who the hell is the enemy? You understand? It's pretty common sense. However, in Christianity, one's neighbor becomes one's enemy when the good Christian is offended. So they can easily take that term neighbor that they apply to everybody, and as soon as somebody crosses a Christian's path, well, they become neighbor to enemy. All right? But Yah says that thou shalt not hate thy brother, no matter what. You can bear any grudge. So if you two have problems, he doesn't become your enemy, he's still your brother. Matthew chapter 5, verse 43, and I got a little bit off on this digression here, but again, in keeping with the line of, who can work, who can't work, what's acceptable, what's not. In the first part of the study, I needed to break down the word neighbor to get a better understanding of who our neighbor is. Matthew chapter 5, verse 43 and 44, quickly. You have heard that it has been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. Oh, and here's the verse they use every time. You got to love your neighbor. If your neighbor is not an Israelite but a pagan heathen, then he is your enemy, flat, plain, and simple. Okay? Verse 44, but I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. All right, this is my question. So what if your enemy What if the one that you're supposed to love, this so-called enemy, what if he's an Edomite? What if he's from Esau? Then what do? So how do you actually comply to this verse? Now, somebody mind telling me that, because remember, Yah hates Esau. Esau is the enemy, but if we're supposed to love our enemies, then we're actually in opposition to Yah. So right there, in case in point, Christianity is totally off base, and I got to say the penmanship in this particular verse is, Pastor's been through this one before too, and he brought it out real well. So I don't remember when he did it. It was back. It wasn't too long ago, but he talked about the same thing. You know, you ask yourself. It says, "Bless them that curse you," talking about your enemies. I mean, would Yah bless Esau and pray for Esau? Would he? Ask yourself that. Hell no. You know, what if this enemy that you're supposed to love? What if he comes to perpetrate violence on your daughter nowadays? You know, between the homosexual sodomite spirit, your son. So what are you supposed to love him? You know, and bless him because he just cursed you and his family by coming against you in violence? Oh, hell no. You see, this thing is just jacked up. All right, Psalms chapter 9, verse 19. We're going to show what David thought of Yah's enemies. Psalm chapter 9, verse 19. Arise, O Yahweh, let not men prevail. Don't let them have the top. Don't let them, be the one to win. Don't let them be the one our enemies to, get over on us. Let the heathen be judged in thy sight. Man, hand it to them right there. Don't let them prevail or have unhindered ability to have the strength and rule over you. To persecute you unjustly, despitefully use you. Now, remember what happened in the story of the Amish. I'm sure most of you heard it, that they had these just pieces of crap young men, or young pieces of crap, I should say, that they went in and they were raping the daughters of this Amish man continually, and it just drove the man insane because this doctor locked him in. He wouldn't do anything. Well, it's in our nature to preserve our families. So come on, love your enemies. Yeah, I know that the Most High is going to repay, no doubt He's going to, but no, they got that messed up. Matthew chapter 10, verse 16 and 17. He said, "Behold," this is Jesus talking. He says, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep where in the midst of wolves." Okay, so we're supposed to love the wolves? No, He's warning us. "Be therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves," meaning dealing with these wolves, our enemies. Now wait a minute, we're supposed to love them and bless them. "But beware of men." Oh, beware of who? Men, yeah, our enemies. "For they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in the synagogue." Jesus is giving us a warning. Watch out for them. But wait a minute, we're supposed to love our enemies. Now this is all dealing with our neighbor, who our neighbor is, all right? Just to clarify back in the Torah. And it all boils down to there's only two fathers. You either serve the one or the other. By association, those of the Father in heaven are your kindred, your brother, and your neighbor, but those whose father is Satan are your enemies. And of course, back to Matthew 5:44, the ones you're supposed to love and bless them when they curse you. Come on, if somebody's going to walk up to you and say, "Merry Christmas," oh, bless you. Is that what we're supposed to respond? Bless you. Come on. Jeez, come on. Oh, help us, Father. All right, John chapter 8, verse 38. John chapter 8, verse 38 38 and then 43 through 47. "I speak that which I have seen with my Father, and they do that which they have seen with your father." The word "seen" is the Greek 3708, hora, and that means by implication to discern clearly, to experience, behold, perceive. So whatever we have experienced with our Father, or what we have seen with our Father, that is the thing that we uphold. Okay, going to verse 43. "Why do you not understand my speech, even because you cannot hear my word?" You are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. This is talking about the enemies of the Most High, those that are of their father the devil. He was a murderer from the beginning, and both not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So we're supposed to bless this. Okay, come on. And because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. Which of you convinces me of sin? And if I say the truth, why do you not believe me? He that is Yah heareth Yah's words, ye therefore hear them not, because you are not of Yah. Anyway, I got a few more in here, but you pretty much get the context of, going from neighbor down into this little mini rant, I guess, if you want to call them that. But every time I read this thing, it just irritates the mess out of me, man. They really messed this translation up. But thank the Father that He, exposed the lie of Christianity in our eyes and has delivered us from this mess and continues to unfold the truth before our eyes is what it means to be Hebrew Israelites and not, our former selves. Hallelujah. Anyway, I said all this to say that an Israelite which has a business and employs those other than Israelites may allow them to continue with the business practices on days when Israelites are commanded to cease from servile labors, with, of course, the complete stoppage of work of an Israelite and Gentile, like on the weekly seventh-day Shabbat, in the Day of Atonement. And, of course, going back, you look at the book of Nehemiah when he talks about that in the book. I think it's the 5th chapter. No, what chapter is it that he talks about that? The last chapter, 13? Yeah, 13. Nehemiah's talking about the Sabbath day and laying hands on all these disrespectful folks, dishonoring God's holy feast day, seventh-day Sabbath. All right, that's part one of the study. I know, again, as Elder Becker's way is, he puts a lot of information out there. I hope you did get the gist of what I was trying to convey and got some type of understanding out of it. Again, I encourage you to go back and listen to it again. And I am going to try to kind of slow it down a little bit. I don't know how. This is just the way, this is my administration when I do a study, so I don't know if I actually really going to try to apply myself to do it differently other than just the way Yah's, had me to do it. So, hallelujah. Anyway, I appreciate y'all for joining me again tonight, and I should be back in a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, with hopefully part 2. Stay encouraged. Glad to see all my brothers and sisters in the room. And keep your prayers up for Brother Delano and Sister Tamika and their new son, and of course their other little son, Brother Zion. Hallelujah. And of course your prayers for Pastor Dow continually, because he says it and he means it in his videos. He has a huge amount of stuff on his plate every day, and bless his heart. We try our best to take as much as we can from him, but Pastor's so active in the ministry, I don't know if he actually could slow himself down if he wanted to, because he's just got his mind going for the welfare of the saints continually. Whether it's out here in the dirt, building raised beds to feed Israel, or back outside on the phone. I'll come down in the morning and it'll be 6 o'clock and 5:30 sometimes. He'll be out on the phone talking to somebody. So, hallelujah, he's always got the saints and the best interests of the saints, because he loves Israel. So you keep your prayers up for your shepherd, of course. Hallelujah, and keep your prayers up for one another, for the elders and those that Yah has ordained to rule in Israel. But until a couple weeks from now, of course, as Brother already says, stay tuned for Elder Donnie's broadcast tomorrow night. He's doing an excellent job, and Brother Donnie stepped out on the water. He's taking phone calls. Someday I'll follow in his path, maybe. Actually do a few of my own. The video thing? No, I don't think so. I got trouble looking in the mirror in the morning. My hair's falling out. All I got to do is look in there to shave once in a while. What's the sense? I can brush my teeth with the light off. So anyway, I'm messing with y'all. Again, it's good to have you in the room, family. My blessings to y'all. And I can say Shabbat Shalom because we're still in Shabbat here, but blessings to y'all. And y'all have a good night and the rest of the week. Shalom, the King is coming.
Uh-oh, look at him looking.